Feeling deeply is both a gift and a burden. And if you are someone who feels everything intensely, you probably already know exactly what that means. You do not just feel happy, you feel joy in your chest. You do not just feel sad, you feel it in your body, in your breathing, in the way the whole room suddenly feels heavier. You do not just notice someone's change in tone, you replay it, you analyze it, you wonder what you did wrong. You can sense when the energy shifts, when someone is pulling away, when the words are still polite but the warmth has disappeared. And sometimes that ability feels like a superpower, but other times it feels like a punishment, because the same heart that allows you to love deeply, care deeply, and connect deeply is also the heart that gets hurt by things other people barely even notice. A delayed reply, a dry message, a conversation that felt slightly off, a silence that lasted a little too long. To someone else, it may be nothing. To you, it may feel like a whole story. And that is where the burden begins. The gift of feeling deeply. Feeling deeply is not weakness. It is not drama. It is not overreacting by default. In many ways, it is a gift. People who feel deeply often have a strong sense of empathy. They can walk into a room and notice who is uncomfortable. They can hear what someone is not saying. They can sit with pain, understand emotion, and connect with people in a way that feels rare. Deep feelers often love with intensity. When they care, they really care. They remember small details. They notice changes. They give meaning to little things. A song is not just a song. A place is not just a place. A memory is not just something that happened. Everything carries emotional weight, and that can make life beautiful. It can make art more powerful, friendship more meaningful, love more sacred. Even ordinary moments can feel alive. A deep conversation at 2 a.m., a look that says everything, a kind message on a bad day, a quiet moment where someone understands you without needing a full explanation. For deep feelers, these things matter. They do not just pass through life. They absorb it. They experience it. They carry it. And honestly, the world needs people like that. The world needs people who care beyond convenience. People who can feel compassion before they are given a reason. People who notice pain before it becomes obvious. People who remind others that being human is not just about being productive, logical, calm, and composed. It is also about tenderness, connection, passion, vulnerability, and love. But like many gifts, feeling deeply comes with a cost. The burden of feeling deeply. The burden is that small things can hurt more. Things that other people brush off can stay with you for days. A strange reply can ruin your mood. A disagreement can feel like rejection. Someone needing space can feel like abandonment. And silence can feel louder than words. Because when you feel deeply, your mind often tries to fill in the gaps. No reply becomes, they are losing interest. A short answer becomes, they are annoyed with me. A change in behavior becomes, something is wrong, and it is probably my fault. And before you know it, you are no longer responding to what actually happened. You are responding to the meaning your emotions gave it. That is where deep feeling can become heavy, because the emotion may be real, but the story attached to it may not always be true. You may genuinely feel hurt, but that does not always mean someone intended to hurt you. You may feel ignored, but that does not always mean you were abandoned. You may feel unloved, but that does not always mean love is absent. This is one of the hardest lessons for people who feel deeply. Your feelings are valid, but your feelings are not always complete evidence. They are signals. They are not always conclusions, and learning that difference can save you a lot of pain. Not everyone feels the same way. Another painful truth is this: not everyone feels at the same depth. Some people process life more calmly. Some people are more logical. Some people are quieter with their emotions. Some people care deeply, but they do not express it dramatically. Some people feel love, but they show it through consistency instead of intensity. Some people are vulnerable, but only in small, careful pieces. And that can be confusing for a deep feeler, because when you feel everything loudly, someone else's calmness can look like indifference. Their silence can look like coldness. Their need for space can look like rejection. Their emotional restraint can look like emotional absence. But that is not always true. Some people are not hiding their vulnerability. Some people are not deliberately withholding emotion. Some people are not trying to punish you with distance. Their emotional world simply works differently. They may need more time to process. They may not have the language for what they feel. They may have grown up in environments where emotions were not discussed openly. They may believe love is shown through action, responsibility, loyalty, and presence, not necessarily through intense emotional expression. And this is where many relationships struggle. One person says, "Why don't you care?" The other person says, "I do care. I just don't react the way you do." One person says, "Why are you so cold?" The other person says, "I'm not cold. I'm just overwhelmed." One person wants emotional intensity, the other wants emotional safety, and both people can end up feeling misunderstood. The mistake deep feelers make. People who feel deeply sometimes make the mistake of expecting others to meet them at the same emotional intensity. They think, if I would have replied faster, why didn't they? If I would have noticed that detail, why didn't they? If I would have cared enough to ask, why didn't they? If I would have been affected by this, why are they so calm? And those questions are understandable, but they can become dangerous when they turn into emotional measurement. Because not everyone loves in the same language, and not everyone expresses care with the same urgency. Not everyone processes emotion at the same speed. And if you measure someone's heart only by how closely it matches yours, you may misread them completely. You may accuse caring people of not caring. You may push away people who are trying their best. You may mistake emotional difference for emotional neglect. Deep feelers need to remember that intensity is not the only proof of love. Someone can love you quietly. Someone can care without panicking. Someone can be loyal without being expressive. Someone can be present without being emotionally dramatic. That does not mean deep feelers should accept emotional neglect. It does not mean you should stay where your feelings are constantly ignored. But it does mean you have to be careful not to demand that every person experiences emotions exactly the way you do. Because love is not always loud. Sometimes love is calm. Sometimes love is practical. Sometimes love is someone showing up again and again, even if they do not always have the perfect words. The mistake quieter feelers make, but the responsibility does not belong only to deep feelers. People who feel less intensely or who express emotion more quietly also have work to do. Because just because you do not understand someone's emotional reaction does not mean you should dismiss it. You should not minimize emotions just because they feel bigger than yours. You should not say, "It is not that deep," when for the other person, it clearly is. You should not make someone feel childish for having feelings. You should not treat sensitivity like a character flaw, because emotional depth deserves respect, even when it is inconvenient. Sometimes quieter feelers hide behind logic. They say, "That does not make sense." But emotions are not always trying to make sense. Sometimes they are trying to be heard. Sometimes the person does not need a debate. They need reassurance. Sometimes they do not need you to solve the problem. They need you to understand why it hurt. And emotional generosity means making room for feelings you may not personally experience in the same way. It means saying, "I may not fully understand why this affected you so much, but I care that it did." That one sentence can change everything. Because most deep feelers are not asking you to become them. They are asking you not to make them feel foolish for being themselves. The middle ground. So what is the middle ground? The middle ground is this. Deep feelers must learn emotional regulation, and quieter feelers must practice emotional generosity. Deep feelers must learn to pause before reacting, to ask, what actually happened? Not just, what am I afraid this means? They must learn to separate fact from fear, to communicate instead of accuse, to say, I felt hurt when this happened, instead of, you clearly do not care about me. They must learn that not every emotional wave needs to become a confrontation. Not every silence is abandonment. Not every change in tone is rejection. Not every uncomfortable feeling requires immediate action. Sometimes the feeling just needs to be felt, understood, and allowed to pass. That is emotional regulation. It is not suppressing your feelings. It is not pretending you are fine. It is learning how to hold your emotions without letting them drive the whole car. But quieter feelers also have a responsibility. They must learn emotional generosity. They must learn to offer reassurance even when they think it should already be obvious. They must learn that silence can feel painful to someone who is emotionally sensitive. They must learn to communicate, not disappear. They must learn that being calm does not mean being careless. They must learn to say, I need space, but we are okay. Or, I am not ignoring you, I am just overwhelmed. Or, I care about you, even if I do not always express it perfectly. These small sentences can prevent huge emotional storms because sometimes people do not need grand gestures. They just need clarity. How opposite hearts meet. This is how opposite hearts meet. Not by one person becoming less sensitive and not by the other person becoming emotionally intense, but by both people stretching a little. The deep feeler learns not to drown the relationship in emotion. The quieter feeler learns not to starve the relationship of reassurance. One learns calm. The other learns warmth. One learns patience. The other learns expression. And somewhere in the middle, they meet. Without either person losing themselves, that is the goal. Not to change who you are completely, but to become easier to love, easier to understand, easier to communicate with. Because love, friendship, and connection are not just about finding someone who feels exactly like you. Sometimes they are about learning how another person's heart works and respecting it, even when it is different from yours. But how does this work practically? Honestly, even I do not fully know, and maybe that is the most human answer. Because relationships are not formulas. Emotions are not always neat. People are complicated. Some days, the deep feeler will still overthink. Some days, the quieter feeler will still shut down. Some days, both people will misunderstand each other. But maybe the point is not to get it perfect. Maybe the point is to keep trying, to keep explaining, to keep listening, to keep making room for each other. Because feeling deeply is both a gift and a burden. Feeling quietly is not automatically coldness. And somewhere between emotional intensity and emotional calm, there is a place where people can meet. A place where one person says, I will try not to overwhelm you, and the other says, I will try not to dismiss you. And maybe that is where understanding begins, not in perfect emotional compatibility, but in two people choosing to care enough to learn each other. So if you are someone who feels deeply, do not hate that part of yourself. It is not wrong. It just needs guidance. And if you are someone who feels quietly, do not dismiss what you do not understand. Someone's sensitivity may be the very thing that allows them to love with rare depth. The challenge is not to feel the same. The challenge is to respect the difference. Because opposite hearts can meet, but only when both are willing to move.